Hey YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my review for King-ohger episode 39. This was the conclusion of the arc we have been following as the Rangers travel around to liberate all their kingdoms. And as we know, Blue was unsuccessful at first, and now we're coming back, we're circling back around to finish it and get all the kingdoms back under their rule. And it led to another very strong episode. Basically, you have this plan of them like all going in with these decoy hard drives, and like one of them's supposed to be the real one that the villains need to stop them. So you have kind of just all these beginning fights, some really good classic King-ohger cinematography, and it kind of leads you to believe like everyone's got the decoy but Yanma, but it's not. It's all of them are decoys, because it was really funny actually. I like that. I was thinking during this, I'm like, I think the idea of one of them just having it seems kind of cliche for King-ohger, and that's what happened when they destroy Blue's hard drive. He's like, no, we didn't need the hard drive. We already made use of it. This was just all a distraction, which was really great. And it hinges on this plan and this idea that's introduced about there being a secret function in the changers that leads to like a secret kind of power-up. And it was interesting because the ghosts. No, but it was interesting because they bring up the idea that like some of this stuff couldn't have been made by humans or Terrans or whatever from their planet, and that they hinted the idea that maybe the villains had something to do with creating the tech, which would make sense because it almost seems like they're just kind of putting in elements to watch these characters like a TV show. But that was interesting. I like that the show is still interesting. Well, yeah, but I like that the show is still like introducing things that are interesting and stuff about the lore that I'm interested in. So that was cool. And it also, you know, if that's true and it gets explored, very reminiscent of Rider, as Rider will often have, sorry, the chair keeps squeaking. Rider will very often have, you know, the villain's powers somehow tied to or related to the Riders. But anyway, they do end up activating that, and it's effectively kind of like this Super Dino Mode Instincts Awaken-esque form, except it's not physical, it's just kind of like this light projection CGI, and like it comes in with a mecha too, which is pretty cool, but it will like protrude elements of their respective insects, and it's pretty cool. I thought the effects looked really good. I thought it looked neat. I liked the idea. I do like the idea of an Instincts Awaken-esque power-up. Not that I want to see that become run into the ground, but that's something that when the situation calls for it, I wouldn't mind seeing more often. With that being said, even though I did like this, I thought this whole little story arc in terms of like introducing this hidden function, this being this kind of culmination of this arc, would have been a perfect time to introduce an actual real deal team power-up. It would have been a cool moment that would have been like felt built up to, and it would have been nice to see the whole team get a power-up instead of just Gira. However, a little bit of a sidebar, I do want to say I've been meaning to mention this, and I have been really happy in the last handful of episodes that they've shown restraint with Gira using the power-up. He did use it in this episode, but he didn't like main it. And like for a long time, it was almost like that took over as the main suit. And so it's actually been more balanced, and I wanted to bring attention to that. But yeah, they get this Instincts Awaken like power-up. Fight ensues. A pretty cool fight. It got a little bit busy sometimes, like you could kind of not see what was going on, but other times it was, as always, pretty cinematic. But you lead to them finally stopping her, and they basically say like, well, we might spare you if you like release the mind control of everybody. And they release the mind control, but then they're gonna blow her up anyway. And it leads to like this badass moment. She's like, I thought you guys were heroes, and they all kind of like want to have the last word out and all say a cool line. Said we're not heroes, we're like warriors that wear crowns, which I thought was a pretty badass line. But they go to like, you know, finish the job, and then like the ninja guy, like his name's Gumbo or something, I don't remember. He gets switched out for her, and at the last second, and they still win the kingdom, and she escapes, you know, but he's been destroyed. But they do win the day. And like overall, like episode ends here, I'm like pretty solid, good action, interesting mythology, you know, solid, satisfying conclusion to this arc. But that's not the end of the episode, as we find out that there was more to the story in general, and that Rakles is involved. And Rakles shows up, and it's revealed that there was this whole scheme behind the scenes where he was actually working with Kagaragi. He was warning the leader that she was going to basically be killed. Like, look, you're going to lose, you need to swap this out. And he basically pulled the strings behind the scenes to ensure that one of the members, that being Gumbo or whatever his name was, gets killed so that he can become a member of the inner circle. And it was really cool because like I like that it had this actual montage. It was like a montage of showing Rakles going through all this plan. It reminded me of the end of a Saw movie where it reveals like, oh, everything you know is a lie. Dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun. Liked that, but also I really liked it because it kind of mixed like the two eras of the show in a way where the beginning of the show dealt a lot more with like twists and alliances and like the politics, I guess you could say, of it. Not that there hasn't been elements of that throughout the whole show, but we've kind of moved on to some slightly different things in these last couple arcs, and I like that it kind of mixed together this current arc with some of that more classic King-ohger stuff from the beginning of the sort of manipulation and the politics of all that, and that was really cool, and it like highlights Rakles as a villain in my opinion. And it was nice too because we haven't seen him in a while. In fact, I don't think we've seen him at all that I recall since his re-debut. So it was kind of a nice return for him, and it makes a lot of sense. And I am extremely interested in how everything with him is going to go down. As I've said before, I don't want a full-on redemption arc. I just really want to have a Ranger villain that just stays a villain in some way. I would even accept something like maybe at the end he's arrested and it's kind of like a Negan-esque defeat where it's like he's arrested as a bad guy and there's like a glimmer of hope there might be something in there, but not like a full-on he's fighting with them redemption, because I think that's just so boring now. But I am curious what they're going to do with him because, you know, the biggest glimpses we've seen of his like good side is from the flashbacks when he was younger. We've had some little hints in adulthood, but few and far between compared to most Rangers that would be redeemed by now. And of course, like the introduction of the idea of these new villains and that they're involved with this, you know, brought up the possibility that has to do with his personality change, with some people saying he's brainwashed or whatever. I mean, I just can't imagine at this point he was brainwashed, just because if he was brainwashed, he would be under the control of the villains. So then, like, they would see his plan coming because he wouldn't be able to plan something against them because he would be brainwashed. Unless it's the type of brainwashing that's not like, you know, he's completely under their control and it's just a brainwash to make him on his side. I like to think that just the events of him learning about these villains and their control over everything led him down this path. And people in the past have said like, oh, Rakles can't be brainwashed because he would never, or he has to be brainwashed, excuse me, because he would never work with these guys. I'm like, he absolutely would, for both self-preservation and to play an angle. I think it's both. Because as we've seen with Rakles, is he's always playing an angle, and we've seen when his life is threatened, he'll do anything to survive. So, like brainwashing or whatever off the table, he would absolutely work with these guys to probably simultaneously help himself survive, but also work an angle within so that he can figure out how to get a leg up, as we see here. But it was a good twist, but I am really curious to see how his in-game story plays out and how like it ultimately is revealed like why he changed, because I think it's really interesting and it's kind of kept me guessing. But anyways guys, that's about it for this one. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.